This is Exerscribe Radio, and you're listening to Kusha Karvandi. In today's podcast, I interview Tim Tarango. Tim is an expert in NLP, or Neuro-linguistic Programming, which he uses to coach thousands of clients reach their goals by changing the way they think. All right, guys, we're here on Exerscribe Radio with our guest, Tim Tarango. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So, Tim, just to get started, why don't you give the audience a little bit of a background about you and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Tim Tarango, and I'm known as being an expert in NLP, or what's called Neuro-linguistic Programming. And if you want, I'll tell you a little brief introduction about how I got started in NLP. The short answer, and what we're going to talk about today that's really going to benefit you, is how to make small changes in your mindset, small changes in your physiology, small changes in how you perceive the world that'll make a dramatic impact on your behavior. So whether that's to lose weight, to exercise more, to influence others, to have better relationships, it all starts with your head, right? Your mindset. So I had to learn that actually the hard way. And so I'll tell you a brief story. I was fresh out of college and I got a rocking job that I was super excited about in commercial real estate. So I was really excited to get going, and I fell flat on my face. I struggled super hard. I was on commission only, so there was times when I'd go like 6 months without making any money. I'm spending money on gas and driving around, and I'm just failing miserably. And it really culminated to this one meeting that I had with like my ideal perfect client. And so I go in there and I think the meeting goes well. And when I exit his office, when I exit the client's office, there's 2 agents from my company sitting in the waiting room. And these 2 agents had about 30 years of experience in that office each. And I was like 23 years old. So they had more experience doing what I was trying to do than years I had lived on the planet. And I told myself, holy crap, if I'm going to compete in this type of environment, I need every single edge I can get. I need to outcompete them some other way, whether that's building a quicker connection or learning the art and skill of influence. I got to do something. So that's when I started reading everything I could on sales, negotiation, influence. I read books by Tony Robbins, and a lot of other personal development gurus. And everything kind of came back to NLP. They all kind of referenced Neuro-linguistic programming, this technology, the set of tools that was developed in the 70s by looking at and modeling very successful people in specific fields and figuring out what they were able to do to get the results. So I dove straight in, and reading some of these books was like reading a computer manual. It was not fun at the time. But I started using some of the techniques that we'll talk about today, and I got results right away. I started, from that time, the next 12 months, I had outcompeted and won more deals than anyone else that had been in the company at the same time as I had. My fitness and diet was back on track. I was happier, right? My relationships were better. So it was all these little mental shifts that happened in my head that I had no idea that I was, self-sabotaging myself for so long. And when I made these changes, good things happened. So I'll let you take it from there. That's a quick intro, and I'm all yours. We can just talk about, I'm an open book for, whatever you think is going to help the listeners get the most value.
Wow, I like the story a lot. That's a really, really awesome story. And so you talked about these techniques that you use. What were some of these techniques?
So let's bring it around to, because there's so many techniques in NLP. NLP is kind of this tool set that you can use for a lot of different areas of your life. Communication, your fitness, building a connection, building rapport with people. It's like if you were to go build a house from scratch, you probably would need more than just a hammer and one nail to build a house, right? So that's how I think of NLP. It's not just one tool or one technique. It's this entire collection of tools that you can kind of use in a specific area. So with that said, let's talk about the listener and the viewer and some common problems that you face, because you've worked with tons of clients one-on-one. So what are some common problems, common troubles that they face? And I'll just start throwing out tools that people can try.
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest thing is sticking to a program, sticking to a workout program, or holding themselves accountable to sticking with their diet program, that sort of thing.
Sticking with the diet program. So they get started, they're super motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No follow-through.
So no follow-through. Okay. So one technique that is really fun is a state elicitation technique. And so here's what happens when January 1st hits, right? They're in a couple different states. One, they're probably in a negative state because they've had, maybe 12 months has gone by. They set a resolution January 1st and they didn't do anything. They feel fat, they feel depressed, they feel stuck, right? And so that's putting them in pain that they want to get out of. And January 1st comes around and they're feeling motivated and excited and energetic, right? Well, all those things I just mentioned are just examples of different states. And we know from NLP that your state, your mindset is something that you can directly influence. So the first technique will be, you have control over your state. And I'll give you some examples. So if you're watching this on video, I actually wasn't too conscious of it, but I'm sitting up straight. I'm actually using my abs to hold me up, and I feel good and I feel energetic. But if I dip down like that and if I collapse my ab muscles, my shoulders are hunched over, you can already hear it in my voice. I don't feel nearly as powerful. I don't feel nearly as confident, right? And so that's what happens. People get excited and that state drops, and then all of a sudden they go back to feeling like crap. And when you feel like crap, you don't want to do what you need to do. So here's the first technique. The mindset behind it is that you are control of your state. I'm control of my state. Whether you want to feel more confident, more motivated, more energetic, more peaceful, or more relaxed, it's up to you. You can have a direct connection, a direct effect on how you're feeling. So I'll walk you through the exercise, and everyone that's listening can do it as well. So can you remember a time when you felt totally motivated?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, probably happens a lot for you.
Yep.
For some other people, it may take a little bit longer, right? Mm-hmm. Can you remember a specific time that you felt like 100% totally, completely motivated?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right, so here's what I'm gonna walk you through this, a little exercise. You're using your imagination. Have fun with it. So what I want you to do, you can keep your eyes open. You can close your eyes if you want. Just think back to that time and almost imagine yourself like floating back into your body at that time. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to see what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel those feelings of being completely 100% motivated. So just go back to that time, kind of put yourself back in your body at the time, see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel the feelings of being completely motivated. Notice how your body posture was. Notice how your physiology was. Notice how you were breathing. Were you breathing deep breaths from your abs and your stomach? Were you breathing high up in your chest? Just notice how you're feeling your physiology at that time that you were completely 100% motivated. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So that took, 30 seconds. How do you feel?
Oh, excellent. I can really, I can get a sense of kind of what you're talking about, really looking at the state that I was in then and trying to really analyze and dissect it so that I can replicate that.
Yeah, and it's easy to do. It happens really quickly. Conversely, if you were to think of a time where you felt like crap, when you broke up with your girlfriend or you got fired or, a negative state, you'll probably slip into that state as well.
Yeah.
So, to go back to your question which is how to, once we have this plan, to stick with it, it's knowing that you're in charge of your state. Or this is a big factor. It's obviously not the only factor. There's a lot of different tools and techniques that we can apply to that. But knowing that you're in control of how you feel to get your workout, going for that day.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So you said a little bit about the negative state. It seems like a lot of clients, a lot of people in fitness, they get bogged down by negative thoughts, the negativity, maybe negative environments, negative upbringings, whatever it may be. I feel like there's a lot of negative programming in comparison to positive programming. So how do they beat that? Yeah,
there is a ton of negative programming, right? So again, we're talking about neuro-linguistic programming. And so the P part, the programming part, is how do I go from being on basically autopilot, where, I have these goals, these ambitions, these dreams, and I find myself back in the rut, sitting on the couch, eating potato chips, watching, Oprah or whatever it is. How do I break that programming and create new programming? So I'll talk about that in a second. But you bring up an even better point, which is, the negative versus the positive, and how can I view the world so it's more positive, so I get what I want. And a lot of that comes down to what words are you using to describe your reality. How are you putting a frame on your reality? Because that really determines how you perceive the world. So, for example, we're doing this in the morning, East Coast time. It's really early on the West Coast where you are. So there's a ton of different ways that you could frame this interview, that you could frame this interaction, right? You could say, I have to wake up and do this interview. I have to go to work. I got to get this done, right? Those are things that you hear people say all the time, right? I got to go into work. I got to do this. There's nothing inherently wrong about that. There's nothing good or bad about that. However, notice how it's different if you get to frame it a different way, which is, man, I get to connect with, Tim, my buddy that we met in San Diego. We got to talk a little bit. I'm so excited to talk to him more, right? You smiled because that frames it a better way. Or, I'm so happy and excited to provide all this value for the listeners of this interview, for the listeners of the podcast, the people that watch this video. You could say, hey, I'm dead tired. I'm exhausted. I mean, really, how do you feel if you're labeling it in your head? I'm dead tired.
Yeah,
probably
not
feel
very good.
Dead. And we put these labels on our external reality, and it influences how we perceive the world. So make those changes. How do you want to perceive the world? How do you really want it to be? Are you dead tired, or are you more at peace and more calm than sometimes you are? Are you dead tired, or are you really looking forward to a rejuvenating nap later? There's a million different ways that you can frame and describe your reality, and it's really up to you. So that's the internal mindset that you can place on it. Any comments, questions, thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, you said something that was interesting. You talked about being on autopilot. I feel like most of us, we're such creatures of habit that we're always just on autopilot. Like, we're not always conscious of all the things that we're doing. Like 90% of our day, we're just not even conscious of. So
at least,
break
right?
those patterns,
Yeah. Okay, so going back to tie it in directly to what we were just talking about. We are on autopilot a lot. That's how we function. That's how we survive, for the most part. So we could label this autopilot as being bad, right, and something that we have to fight against, or we could just frame it a different way and say, man, the fact that we run on autopilot is really rad, because if we can change that autopilot setting, then we can completely change our results. So let's think of this autopilot as being a good thing, something that we can, manipulate in a positive way. It's like if you had a computer and you went in and changed the source code, and now all of a sudden, the computer is programmed differently, so you get a different result. Let's go with that. Let's think of it like that. That would be much more helpful. So in NLP, we have these things called strategies, or that's the label that we call it in NLP. A strategy is really simple. It's like a recipe. It's first we do step 1, then we do step 2, then we do step 3, and we get a result. So whether you know it or not, you have a strategy or a recipe for really everything you do. You had a strategy for how you woke up this morning, for how you interact with clients, for how you go to the gym. And you can change these strategies, but most people are doing them unconsciously, and they're not effective. They're not getting the results that they want. So here's one of the most fun and probably a really big takeaway for the listeners is interrupting a negative strategy and how effective that can be. So we can go back and forth on some examples. Let me give you an example. Someone gets home from work. It's 6 p.m. They're tired. They had a long day. What's the first thing they do on autopilot? They might go to the fridge, reach in there, get a snack, sit down on the couch, and as soon as that happens for a lot of people, that's it, right? They're in front of the TV for the next 6 hours, and it's like they can't even pull themselves away from the TV.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So if we interrupt that strategy, we derail it. We take it off course, and it's almost like you can't run the program the same way because that initial part of the strategy is missing. So let me give you an example. If you were to sit down on your couch and instead of and watch TV, but there was no remote control or there were no batteries, that's going to completely change this process that you do unconsciously, flipping through the channels.
Yeah.
And now you have to do something different. You can still watch TV, but you have to go up and flip the channel, right?
Nice.
It's an interruption. And so if you're having trouble, if you're doing these patterns unconsciously that aren't helping you, just go in there and interrupt the pattern. Here's another good one that I talked about for a long time, and it actually happened in real life, which is if you're going to the fridge and the first thing that you grab is junk food, interrupt that strategy. Just wake yourself up. You could put a sign in the fridge that says drink water or eat vegetables. Or you could put a mirror in the fridge so that you see your reflection as you're opening the fridge. You could put a lock on the fridge. You could throw all your junk food away and only have healthy food. It's just to interrupt that pattern. The story I was going to say, when I lived in Las Vegas for a while, we had a friend visiting from Eastern Europe. And for whatever reason, he buys this really annoying, it was actually a snowman that you're supposed to put in the fridge that had an audio soundtrack that would play every time that you open the fridge. And it would say something really annoying like, is it cold in here or is it just me? In this really super annoying voice every single time you open the fridge. It got to the point where I did not want to open the fridge because I hated hearing the sound. The only time I would open the fridge was when I was consciously aware of exactly what I wanted to eat. And I knew, okay, I'm going to open this fridge and then I'm going to reach for, an apple or turkey or something, and then I'm close the fridge. I'm not going to, wait around in there. So that's just another example of a pattern interrupt and changing programming that you do subconsciously or unconsciously that isn't helping you, and turning it into a conscious process.
That's awesome. I like that a lot. You deal, I believe, with a lot of clients, correct? You have a lot of coaching clients, and you take them through these processes?
Yeah, I work with a lot of coaching clients. I've transitioned into working with more business clients, helping them use these tools of influence and persuasion to help their clients, or in their sales presentations, their marketing material, or just to help them, be a better business owner or be more productive, right?
Yeah. What would you say is like your best, case study, your best transformational, case study that you had with one of your clients?
I mean, the best transformational case study is me, because for forever I hated working. I wasn't passionate about it at all, and a lot of that was how I framed in my head. I had to do this, or I had to do this presentation today, or do this interview, that I don't want to do. And now I just changed my state. I put myself in a positive, energetic state, doing some of the techniques that we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I frame as being enjoyable for my work, and the results are fantastic. One of the things that I help my clients figure out is what are their values, what's most important to them. So, for example, for you, in the context of working out, in the context of fitness, what's important to you?
Being really leading by example, being in shape, eating right, okay. Really being a paragon of health and fitness.
Okay, cool. What else is important to you?
Really helping a ton of people also make those changes.
Okay, awesome. So what you'll notice is that those values are totally congruent. They're positive, and they're really one of the big guiding forces for this movement that you're creating, what you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. Now, notice that these values, and these are really high-level, deep, ingrained things that are really important to you. How do you think your results would be different if your top value, if your number one value, the thing that was most important to you was, man, I just don't want to be fat anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it would be completely different.
It would be completely different. Your focus would be on not being fat. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't have that drive, that motivation for helping other people. Mm-hmm. And so what I do with my clients is I walk them through, it's a longer exercise, but it's figuring out what their values are, making sure that they're congruent and aligned with their values so that those values are helping them get what they want. So for me, some of my values are freedom, fun, right? So if I'm starting a business and I have to lock myself in a cubicle all day. I actually currently live out of a backpack. I've been traveling almost the entire year, and running my business, doing interviews, meeting friends, and so it provides that freedom, which is really important to me. And I also make my business fun. So if I'm missing those values, then my business starts to suffer. So that was a big transformational thing for me, is being aligned with these values, being congruent with what I wanted in my business and my life, and having those really drive the bus for me. So it wasn't me consciously, I got to wake up this morning and do this. It's everything's lined up. Everything's perfectly aligned to give me what I want. And, that's for me for business. It's the same with fitness. It's the same with exercise. It's the same with your relationships. It's making sure that they're all aligned and pointing in the right direction to get you what you want.
It seems in health and fitness that it's almost kind of like, it's kind of like a two-way street, right? Like your mindset will influence your exercise and your diet, but also it kind of goes the other way too, right? Like if I don't eat right, it's hard for me to get in that right state of mind, right? Wouldn't that be an obstacle for me to, if my gut health or if my immunity is poor, I feel like that might be difficult for me to try and maintain a positive state of mind.
Yeah, which is why fitness is so important, which is why your diet is so important. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. Let's talk about a couple more things that can influence your diet. We talked about the programming and avoiding the negative. So let's talk about the programming for the positive. Here's a really it's stupid simple on how easy this is. And you've probably had this experience with clients. They might have said to you, tell me if this hasn't happened. I'm sure it has. The client says, I really didn't want to come into the gym today. Now that I'm here, I'm going to work out. And then 45 minutes go by and they have a great workout.
They didn't want to go to yesterday.
Happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Happens yesterday. So that's cool, and it does happen all the time. And I notice it for myself. I don't really feel like getting to work, but I got some stuff done, and 8 hours rolls by, and I've been super productive, right? So let's use that programming to our benefit. Here's what I like to do. I call it, put the shoes on. That's it. So when you're thinking of getting your day started for all the things that you have to do, here's one way to describe what you have to do. I got to wake up. I got to get out of bed. I got to take a shower. I have to eat breakfast. I have to go pick up my dry cleaning. Go to work, client meetings, go to the gym. I got to find some food. I got to pick up the kids. Right? We make it so complex that it becomes overwhelming. And what happens is a lot of times we just don't get any of those things done, or if we do, we get them done poorly.
Yeah.
So in NLP, it's called chunking down. It's getting very specific. So focusing on one specific thing. And in the context of exercising, try this out for the people that are listening, try this out for yourself. If you're having trouble getting out and getting to the gym, or getting out and walking or exercising, get your shoes that you would take to the gym, put them right by your bed or right by your door, and have the socks ready to go, have your workout clothes ready to go, and your only outcome, it's not 1,000 things that you have to do. Your only objective is to put your clothes on and to put your shoes on. That's it. That's it.
Nice.
If you want to take it one step further, it's walk outside. That's it. And if you do that, consider that a win. Consider that a victory. Even if you walk back inside and you take your shoes off and you put, your sandals on or whatever, still consider walking outside with your shoes on a victory. And really feel good about that victory, because what's going to happen more times than not is, I already got my shoes on, I might as well walk around the block. I already walked, I might as well jog. Well, my heart rate's up, I'm feeling good, I might as well throw on a few push-ups.
Yeah.
Right? But don't think about all that. Just think about putting your shoes on. Or think about just walking into the gym. That's it. Taking this complex thing, making it very simple. So put your shoes on. So that's a way to kickstart and to create a new pattern, a new program, essentially, that once you get that first step going, once you put your shoes on, it starts to run for itself, and all these other things fall into place.
Would you say that there's kind of like the most important strategy, or a very common strategy that you integrate with clients that are trying to improve their health and fitness? Or is it really dependent on kind of, your assessment of them and their goals?
So there's a ton of things that you could do, and I like to custom tailor it to the clients that I work with. So here's some strategies or patterns that I've adopted that are really helpful. As soon as you wake up, drink a big, tall glass of water. If that's all you do, if that's the only new strategy or habit that you implement, you'll notice that you feel a lot better, right? So that's one simple thing. And I like to layer these things on top of each other. So instead of trying to adopt 10 new habits, just adopt one and notice some changes and see how it works.
Yeah.
For the most part, I don't watch any television. I mean, think of what happens when you're watching TV. You have multi-billion-dollar corporations that hire the best marketing geniuses, the best people at subliminal advertising, influence, and persuasion, and their goal is to program you to next time you're in the grocery store to pick up junk food. Do you think that they're going to be effective if they have 3 minutes or 5 minutes out of every half hour to program you, and you're already in this kind of state where you're passive, you're letting information come in? They're really freaking good at programming you to buy their products, which most of the time don't help. So, if you want to really take it up to the next level, stop watching TV, or pick one program that you're going to watch, or throw the remote control out so you can watch whatever you want. You just have to get up and switch the channel. I mean, that's going to have a profound effect on a lot of people. Just that.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's all I really watch is Breaking Bad on Netflix.
Yeah. So and Netflix is a lot better because at least you're not sitting through all these commercials, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's no commercials, but there's still subliminal advertising, I'm sure, with product placement throughout these different TV shows and stuff too. So I'm always skeptical, like you. I always look out for stuff like that. Yeah.
You really want to be aware of what's going in to your brain, what's going into your programming, or else you're going to pick up bad habits. For example, I don't eat much junk food, but I noticed when I was visiting a friend recently, I was staying there for about a week, and I watched a lot more TV, and I had cravings for wacky stuff Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I don't even like ice cream that much, and salty potato chips. And literally, next time I'm in the grocery store aisle, I'm like, oh man, that sounds really good. And I had to think back on why I wanted this food that I hadn't wanted in years, and it's because I'd seen these pictures and these videos and these images, and they have the voiceover of the sexy voice that's telling you to buy it. It's hard to resist if you're not consciously aware of it.
That's true. Well, we learned a lot of really good things today, a lot of great techniques, learned about NLP. What are some of your final kind of closing thoughts for the audience today?
Man, closing thoughts. So the big closing thought, like the big foundational principle, if there's one thing for you to take away from this, is you are responsible for your results, right? So you're responsible for how you feel. You're responsible for, who you bring on as a mentor or a coach. You're responsible for your state in these programs. So don't think of it as, I'd really like to work out, but I'm too busy at work. Or, it's not my fault I'm overweight. It's not my fault I'm not getting the results because of whatever reason. From now on, try it on for size of taking responsibility for everything that happens, and notice the results just get better and better and better. Notice how when you have this this philosophy of taking full responsibility, your coaches are going to help you get better results. Your mentors, you're going to start looking at the world completely differently. So that's it. And I know we've run through like rapid fire principles and techniques. If you'd like, I'd love to give the viewers some more resources that they can use to go down this path of learning more for themselves. Because what I've done is I've taken these really complicated like computer programming manual books on how to influence yourself and how to influence other people, and I've just made it drop dead simple. So is that cool?
Absolutely, yeah, please.
All right, so I've set up a free ebook that goes into 7 NLP techniques that you can start using right away. They're really simple. They'll help you be more motivated, to take action even when you don't really feel like it, to working with other people, to better communication skills. So that's one resource that I'll offer the viewers. And then there's a video that really goes into more depth on just 3 techniques of influence. Whether you want to influence yourself or influence other people, you can check these out. So the URL is www.rapidnlp.com, rapidnlp.com /Exerscribe, EXERSCRIBE. And there'll be a page where you can get the ebook and the video, and goes deep as you want. Go start using these techniques, and what you'll find is when you use one technique effectively and you get just a little result, like the putting your shoes on technique, or that state elicitation, feeling more motivated, you'll notice, wow, I can really build upon this and continue to do it. It makes it fun. So
awesome.
Again, rapidnlp.com /Exerscribe, rapidnlp.com /EXERSCRIBE. And you can pick up some free resources. That'll be really cool for you.
Boom. I'm going to read it.
Oh. And so you and I got to hang out for quite a while in San Diego, and I'm looking forward to hanging out more. I'll tell you, viewers, download the Exerscribe app. I read the book that you sent me. Thanks for sending me the book. So read the book, read the material. You have your stuff on point, and I've already learned so much from you. So
thank you.
If for some reason you're watching this interview or listening to the podcast and you haven't downloaded the app and you haven't gone through this book and devoured every other piece of material that you put out there, do that.
Thank you.
Because you'll definitely get a big benefit from that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, totally.
Well, yeah, when you're back in San Diego, we'll have to get together again.
Absolutely. Totally.
All right. Thank you again, Tim.
All right. Appreciate it.